So thank you very much. The Magical Science of Cyber. I could probably also talk about the cyber of magic and all the dodgy stuff that some magicians are doing with cyber security technologies. But today, I just want to have a talk about how we can use magic to engage users and to try and move away from awareness. And I'll talk a little bit about why. I don't know whether or not you have this nightmare. You wake up every morning and the world looks just the same with all of the same problems and issues that you were looking at the previous day. Maybe some slight movements, but on the big picture, not enough movement in terms of the things that you're worried about. So, what's the background to this? So, information security as a socio-technical system deals with technologies, processes, and people. But the reality is that in much of cybersecurity, we spend a lot of time, we've built a lot of technologies, we've listed endless policies and procedures that people need to follow, most of which even the people who have dealt with them don't even know what's inside them. But the people bit gets a bit forgotten, is the reality. We're very poor at dealing with the behavioural and the cultural parts of our information security system. So this is not really a nice, evenly spaced system. And what you get then is something along the lines of an IBM report that came out in 2014. It said 95% of cybersecurity incidents are down to human error. I hate the statistic. It actually gets it all the wrong way around, but that's probably another talk. But the reality is, it's not evenly listed out. We've kind of got 90% of our problem of being supported by people, and yet we're not really focusing on it. We're not focusing on the key people. If we get to a point where we need our technologies and our processes, really, actually, to some degree, you could argue we've already failed. So, one of the great poster boys of the fact that we think we do people is the cyber awareness campaigns. It's in our standards, our cyber assessment frameworks. It appears in our training programs, and even just in case we should think that this is all outdated and in the past, last week the DCIT and the National Cybersecurity Centre released their governance code of conduct to sit alongside the Cyber Essentials programme. And again, we're dealing with awareness, but really, do we really feel that awareness is strong enough? I would argue that if we set our target of awareness, we are setting the bar way, way too low. And I think the science proves that. So we're going to have a look at what the science says, and we're going to see why I think we need to change. Anybody know who this guy is? Yeah? Uri Geller? Know mostly for this stuff. The spoon bending. Yeah? But in actual fact, another thing that he did was he was brought in by the Defence Intelligence Agency, the DIA, to test out whether or not the US could develop a remote viewing capability. In fact, actually, they thought at the time that Russia had already developed this and that they were behind the curve. So they were keen to kind of catch up. And the DIA released a program called Stargate. And you could go onto the website. It's actually, strangely enough, on the CIA website. But you can go on, and actually all of the stuff that we're going to talk about in a second is entirely factual. You could go on there, you can read the documents for yourself. But we're going to try a little experiment. We're going to try, actually, I'm hoping it'll be a miracle, but it might be an experiment. If it works, it's a miracle. If it doesn't work, it's going to be an experiment. But I need a member of the audience to come up and assist me with this little test that we're going to do. So, can I have a volunteer? Is somebody going to volunteer for me? Because otherwise I'm going to volunteer. Sure, great. Come on, thank you very much. Round of applause, everybody. Hi, Andrew. Alan, everybody. Right, Alan. I've got in my hand a set of declassified papers. Okay, and it tells the story of that experiment that they did with Uri Geller. And what they did was they put Uri. That's actually, you can see, not Uri Geller. It's a woman but they put him into a chamber, and they tried to project images and pictures and words to see whether or not he could, by remote viewing, he could pick up what these are. But basically, through this document here, you will see various pictures that they tried to. Some are what Uri picked up, some are what they actually sought to do. This one here, a bunch of grapes, was actually one of the images that they particularly used. And what was quite remarkable, and by the way, he was in this chamber. All of the images that they were seeking to project were outside. Uri drew exactly the same image with exactly the same number, 24 grapes on it. So there's a set of pictures. There are also bits of text. Everything you can see was kind of different things in here. I want you to come over here. Now we haven't got a chamber for me to be locked in, which is probably a good thing. I know. But we are going to do something that tries to have a sort of controlled situation for it, okay? And what I wanted you to do in a second is I wanted you to hold up this page here. I'll be standing over there, and it will shield from me and from everybody else what you're choosing. I don't want you to flick through, but I want you to just simply go to the document and lift up the page. See if there is a set of text that is on there or an image, and I want you to try and focus on that image and try and memorize it. Okay? Okay. All right. There we go. There. So, in your time, just walk. Don't be flick through. Lift it up. Have a look. You got one? Okay. Is it an image or is it some text?
It's an image.
It's an image. Okay. So, I wonder, could you focus, is there a kind of I want you to think about colour at the moment, all right? Is there an image in the middle of that picture that particularly reflects a certain colour to you?
Yes.
There is. Think of that colour. Try and project that. I think it's quite a fiery colour. Is it red? Okay. So we've got it red. And now think about, is there another object on there?
Yes.
Okay. This is more of a kind of straight line or something like that. Yes. Okay. Do something. Keep thinking of that. Keep thinking of that image. Okay. Could you describe the image that you have been thinking?
It's like a tattoo of the heart with an arrow through it.
Tattoo of the heart. Thank you very much. Thanks for your help. Okay, so how does this help us with cybersecurity? So, obviously, I might be fooling you. I don't know how you did it. I know how I did it. And I might be fooling you. You might think that I might not be 100% trustworthy, that I have somehow engineered that situation to emerge. So if I was doing this within a training environment, we could be talking about social engineering. We could go on and talk about confidentiality, integrity, availability, the CIA triad. Not the same as the CIA there, but it's a neat thing, isn't it? Also very interested in the emotions that we get through this, and the fact that this System 1, System 2, the Kahneman System 1, System 2, actually the majority of what we do is automatic. Very little is actually this very thoughtful System 2. They actually work in conjunction with each other, but actually we can, using certain tricks or whatever, we can actually trick people in the way that we just done. By the way, this is the brand. This is the me brand for the magic stuff. But what's the science behind this? Why should we be, I think, moving from pure awareness, cyber awareness, into cyber engagement? The science is really clear. The science is really clear about this. Behavioural science, to start with. There is no point in just thinking that we can work and develop our capabilities by purely looking at the skill base, at our capabilities. Actually, behaviour change is quite clearly known to need other qualities. There is a particular brand, I should say, of behavioural change science and behavioural change model, which was done by Robert West and Susan Mickey. And it says basically we need capabilities, opportunities, motivations lead to behaviour change. So have a look at that. But certainly the case is motivation is super important. We've got to look at, we've also got to look at, and in fact actually this is both a kind of educational philosophy, educational psychology. The more that we can experience things, if we're sitting down and just getting our users to go through a tick box exercise once a year, and even maybe some more in-depth stuff that is largely going to be text-driven, I suspect, I've seen so much of it. Actually, that experience is just not being received by the user. It doesn't help in terms of the embedding of that knowledge. And also something called constructivism. Again, it's about active learning. That actually we build these up from kind of our actions. So we've obviously got behavioural science, we've got educational psychology, and then the other one is the somatic marker hypothesis. This is around essentially bioneuroscience, and it says that actually when you are seeking to embed knowledge, actually that comes if you can engage the amygdala, the kind of the emotional part of your brain that passes up through to the higher actions and really embeds various learning and everything as well. So we've got all of this science, but we're just not following it. So what would good look like if we were to transition from a cyber awareness to cyber engagement program? That's what I'm asking us all to do. It becomes much more engaging. We talked about that. Often it's about making it more specific. That actually, potentially, maybe the longer programs need to be supported at the very least by some smaller programs that people can pick up and carry on doing through a year. Ensuring that actually we're not just dealing with the threat of disciplinary action. We build this into our programs and stuff, but actually we have very little about positive enforcement. Actually, we need to gather. One of the big problems, actually, why I see that we don't do a lot of this behavioural stuff is that actually we've not been collecting the data, not in any sufficiently comprehensive way and not with a kind of strong foundation. And running real-world simulations, although be careful, if you think that we could just do those fishing simulations all the time, there is actually a point at which things become a bit of a problem, actually. It actually diminishes our abilities as well. So just some examples quickly. We ran practice safe sex around the Barbie film. We took that and we kind of ran with it as a means by which to kind of produce something that was a little bit more engaging than let's just do all the tick box and everything like that. We had a practice safe sex hashtag running throughout it, and we were asking, as a strong female character, what would Barbie do in this situation? It had emotional triggers, it generated the emotion, it proved that actually we actually got a lot more kind of learning from that. Cyber Escape Room Co. Highly recommend them. Particularly, they have things called escape rooms, cyber escape rooms. You get sent basically a bag. In this particular one, it has inside it a laptop, has some other bits and bobs, clues. You actually work through with your team, and you can hire it out for a period of time, so you can do it several times with different teams. But you get, again, you're engaging with experiential learning, and then also this company, so there's kind of various brands of this, value improvement projects. They have a nocanwilldo.com website, so you can go and have a look at that. Particularly this is actually offered in a wider context of behavioural change, cultural change within organisations' leadership. But strategic orbits exercise, again, we're dealing with something that is action-based and gamified, and is a much more engaging way for people to kind of instill the learning that we're trying to get. So this is the old way of doing it. Again, we can argue where those pillars lie, but it's a very static, very linear process. I developed a new model, and it actually was built on some research that was done here at Lancaster University in military design, and it's about bringing in much more complexity into the model, recognizing that we should not be. Sometimes we do need to be more technocentric. But we've got to make sure that we also include some of the human-centric capability as well, and we need to be thinking much more carefully about that. And then from this, sometimes we can make it really simple. We can control, at a quite detailed level, but sometimes it needs to be a bit more holistic and a little bit more flexible and a little bit more agile. So my appeal to you, when you get back to your offices, when you're engaging with other organisations and everything like that, please just get your find and replace tool out. And let's change security awareness into security engagement. And that's just a change of language. But I hope that in some way you can actually then go on from that to start thinking, okay, well, actually, how do we turn that program into something that is more engaging, that actually involves more active participation from our people, and that actually begins to deliver on some of the security improvements and strengthening that we really need, alongside the technologies and the processes. For sure, I understand. I'm not saying that those are not necessary. They absolutely are. But we've got to do much more on the people side of things. So, engagement, creativity, human-centred, and perhaps a little bit of magic in there as well. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Keep it up for Andrew. That's great, right? We've got time for a few questions. I'm sure you have many questions. Yeah, who would like to go first? Do we have any questions?
No, I can't answer the question of how did I do it. I'm sorry.
Oh, you wouldn't ask me to give away. So the big picture stuff, just think in terms of like tribalism specifically in security.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe using the analogy of why like hard-working, well-practiced magicians don't necessarily get on well with sort of lazy mentalists. What can you give a specific example where this approach has worked?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone and done these presentations, magic presentations to various people, and we've done actually some of the ideas that I listed down in that slide before, where we talked about the kind of CIA triad. It's generally been for me a launchpad. By the way, experiential learning doesn't always have to be about active experience. It can be just something, as I said to you, about engaging the emotions and everything. It's just a much more engaged. We've had a lot more engaged people who have taken that and they've sort of run with it and seem to, in terms of some of the behavioural stuff within the organisations that we've been working with, we've seen a shift. Does it solve all of our security problems? Of course not. But if you accept, and I don't, but if you accept the 95% human error situation, if I can make a 10 or a 20% difference to that, I'm making a very substantial difference to the overall security posture of the organisation.
I'm going to press. Have you got any specific examples? For a real effect.
We've worked in a facilities management company, and we were doing some training with them on engaging with kind of processes and cybersecurity stuff, and we were measuring. They had actually got a system to sort of measure some of the cybersecurity behaviours, and we saw a shift. It was about a 5% shift in terms of the change, so it wasn't actually hugely dramatic, but it was actually the first time that we had tried that program with them.
Brilliant.
So it was, and we haven't done further ones of that nature. I'm not saying it's not a complete solution, but it's a part of our armoury, and I think we're dealing with it at the moment with our hands behind our back.
Yeah, we've got time for one more quick question.
Curious, how do you quantify behaviour change when you monitor?
And that's that is really one of the big questions, and and part of the problem is that the metrics on it are really not collected. So what you can do, obviously, you could be looking at the obvious things that we could look at the moment would be things like phishing links and are people clicking on those links or are they not? So are we having more incidents that have been deemed to come out of social engineering? But actually, it is really tough. And part of the problem is that the science on the data collection is really poor. So all we can do is go in, we can measure some of the, it depends on what the target is that we're dealing with, but if we can measure some of these statistics prior to a situation and after. And sometimes we can also do some sort of A/B testing where we've done sort of different types of training in different situations. But actually, one of the things that I think we need to do is actually been something that we've been in discussions with about the university here. My business is based here at the University of Development Office here at the university. Is actually, can we build a program? We need to be talking to some of the government agencies as well. Can we build a program that actually begins to kind of capture some of that behavioural data, maybe using something like the COM-B framework? And looking at in more depth at the. Just one other thing quickly is that we also did some interesting research on does our behaviour in one context reflect our behaviour in another. In actual fact, it was around the COVID-19 behaviours. So when in COVID-19 we were asked to take particular behaviours that were to protect our own personal health security, but the network in which we operate. and that seemed to be, to me, quite similar to what we ask our users to do in a digital environment. And we were looking at some of the what's called proxies of behaviour between the two. And we actually found in early research, but we actually found that there are some links between that. And it might be that some of those other behaviours are easier to measure. So then we could probably get to a point whereby we could profile a little bit some of the individuals and actually then direct particular interventions towards particular groups of users within a network.
One more round of applause for Andrew, everyone.